there is no smarter professor than life, and no wiser sage than experience. He possessed the talent to make a subject which people dislike, or he can create such an aura in the class that me myself get excited to show up to and learn from him. He is being popular for giving amazing lectures and feedbacks, and always being supportive in the fraternity for each homeopath, each colleague homeopath. His dedication and love for homeopathy is so inspirational. A third generation homeopath, Dr. Navneet Bidani, sir, we welcome on behalf of Team Homeopathy 360 and Homeopathic Asha Homeopathic Academy, as well as the Homeopathic Key. He's having a successful track record of treating thousands of patients suffering from acute and chronic diseases with homeopathy and psychotherapy. He's completed his BHMS from Pune, as well as had a keen interest in psychology. So he completed his master's degree in psychology, MSc psychology from Meghalaya with flying grades. He is highly skilled in treating the so-called chronic incurable diseases, and has an extensive knowledge relating to human psychology, personality disorders, psychosis, stress, apart from other physical complaints. He has completed his MD Home in Pediatrics from B.R. Ambedkar University, and he is a respected mentor who is specialized in homeopathic repertorization and case taking. Spreading his knowledge about right and healthy living in the society, organizing seminars, awareness campaigns is his biggest passion since graduation days. He's presently practicing at Dr. Bidani Center for Homeopathy, Hisar, and has contributed a lot to the homeopathic fraternity through various lectures, through various responsibilities for different organizations, and is well known as an international speaker, mentor, and teacher, and has given lectures in numerous national as well as international seminars, and has been a well-established author, and has written more than 100 articles for various international and national journals, peer-reviewed journals, and health magazines. He has a great number of achievements, so whatever I say is less to describe him. I hope everybody is excited to learn from him. So now I want to welcome Dr. Navneet Bidani sir, who will be our first speaker of the day. He'll be discussing on treating atopic dermatitis in children. So I hand over the session to him. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here this afternoon. And I'm highly thankful to the BJAN team, Homeopathy 360, Asha Homeopathic Academy, and of course, Homeopathic Key. So today, without wasting much of your time, because we already have I've got just 45 minutes more. And today what I'll be sharing with you is my clinical experience of 20 years, and specifically in atopic dermatitis. In those years, I have learned, in fact, I have, treated more than, I would say, 300 to 400 patients of atopic dermatitis. What I mean by treated is that even after follow-up of at least 2 years, I'm counting those people only, those who were even without any medications. There was no relapse, and there was no aggravation, no seasonal aggravation, or maybe no as such environmental changes that causes the relapse of the patches or maybe itching or dermatitis in such patients. So I think we'll start with the topic. Yashika, can you share the slides, please? Yeah, thank you. So my topic for today is atopic dermatitis beyond scratching the surface. So why this particular line, beyond scratching the surface? In it itself, everything has a cause. Every disease is having some deeper roots. It's not just that it's the itching, so it's a superficial layer, the epidermal layer that is being affected, but it's the entire body. Or maybe you will later on in my slides, I will show you how mind is related with such kind of disorder as well. So today's topic is atopic dermatitis beyond scratching the surface. As you all know, it is a pruritic eczematic dermatosis, the symptoms of which chronically fluctuate with remissions and relapses. So, you know, this particular point, remissions and relapses, is really very important, because at times out of our overconfidence, or at times out of, when we are in very much hurry, we declare our patient that yes, I have cured this particular patient having atopic dermatitis within 6 months. So my dear friends, we'll have to be a little bit patient to declare, to stop the follow-up of the patient, because in most of the patients, you get the relapse. Maybe many of the patients get relapse in the winters. So at times it's really difficult to judge whether that person, that patient will get the same symptoms in the next winters. So my dear friends, at least 2 years of follow-up is must in such kind of disorders. So what exactly is atopic dermatitis? Personal or family history of any or number of these illnesses like asthma, allergic rhinitis, allergic conjunctivitis, or atopic dermatitis, and having predisposition to overproduction of IgE antibodies. One very common question usually students ask is whether eczema and atopic dermatitis are one and the same thing. So my dear friend, technically, if I say technically, eczema is slightly different and is a more general term. And atopic dermatitis is just a type of eczema, but many physicians and patients will refer to atopic dermatitis and eczema as one and the same thing, though it's not exactly one and the same thing. So what's the difference? So eczema is a broad term, and atopic dermatitis is one of the eczema. Like there are a number of several types, different types of eczemas are there, like atopic dermatitis, contact dermatitis, dishydrotic eczema, nummular eczema, seborrheic dermatitis, stachys dermatitis, etc. So though there are several distinct types of eczema, it is possible more than one type of at a time. So it is quite possible that if a same person is having contact dermatitis along with seborrheic dermatitis. The hallmark of atopic dermatitis are intense pruritus, chronic eczematous skin lesions, and epidermal thickening and hypertrophy. I won't go much into the theory part, so we'll go fastly in this particular thing, because the theory you all people know very well. The most common presentation is that of infants, usually younger than 6 months, brought in by their parents for a persistent rash. Before coming to the homeopathic doctor, the parents may have tried a number of over-the-counter medicines, including topical steroids and home remedies. Parents usually report that the rash has waxed and waned for months and with a history of dry skin since birth. We homeopaths should inquire about a family history of asthma, hay fever, allergy, and other atopic diseases. Patients with pertinent medical or family history tend to have worse prognosis. So parents may also give a history of poor sleep or increased irritability in the patients, which is due to the desire to scratch the skin during sleep. Atopic dermatitis begins with intense pruritus, leading the patient to scratch, which results in the characteristic rash. So there is a vicious cycle: itch, scratch, infection, inflammation, leading to more itch, more scratching, more infection, and more inflammation. And one thing we should learn whenever we describe any skin lesion, it is very important to know the following features. Even when you are examining your patient having any sort of skin disease, you must focus on these 6 points: size of lesion, type of lesion, shape and symmetry of lesion, color and pigmentation, surface area, and distribution over the body surface. For example, if the lesions are symmetrical or asymmetrical, as is seen in, you know, uh, even in scarlet fever, there is a universal symmetrical pattern. So we have to understand whether the itch is localized or generalized. For example, in atopic dermatitis, the itching is localized, having characteristic sites, and generalized itching is seen in sort of drug eruption, systemic diseases, psychogenic pruritus, exanthema, etc. We also should focus on sequence of events, like whether the itch precedes rash or rash precedes itch. Even though it helps in selecting a homeopathic remedy as well, even though it helps in selecting the rubrics, and at the same time it helps us in speaking the language of modern practitioners. So we must know, we must ask the sequence of events from the patients. So for example, if the itch precedes rash, it might suggest systemic disorder or psychogenic pruritus. And whereas if the rash precedes itch, it is suggestive more of a cutaneous problem. So similarly, we must ask about the character of the sensation, pattern to the episodes of itching, time of the day of aggravation, does it awaken patient, are activities interfered with, what are the provoking or relieving factors, aggravating factors and all. This also, it's been classified into 3 parts: acute, subacute, and chronic atopic dermatitis. Acute one is having an intensely itchy and present as vesicles and blisters with intense redness. In subacute, you get the slight to moderate itching, and in chronic, you get excoriations as well, with accompanied by fissures and all, and then itching is quite intense as well at times. The next important thing while defining or while diagnosing atopic dermatitis in your patient is the pattern of skin manifestation. And it depends, it varies with the lifespan. How? Let's see. In infantile atopic dermatitis, pruritic, red, scaly, and crusted lesions are typically found on the extensor surfaces and cheeks or scalp, with severe cases possibly presenting with vesicles, exudates, or crusting. So, my dear friends, these are the common site. At times, while repertorization, when I was quite young, what I used to do was, like, if the patient is having eruptions over, say, forehead, I immediately take a rubric like itching, forehead, So we should never focus on such clinical symptoms, because it's quite a common thing. Most of the infantile of atopic dermatitis, you will see the rashes either on face, scalp, trunk, extensor surfaces of the extremities. So my dear friends, there's no point taking such common rubrics while repertorizing. There's no point increasing your number of rubrics, so better focus on the quality of the rubrics. So in infants, you will get the region over these surfaces, and as the child grows, during childhood, the lesions in the childhood stage have less exudation. The skin often demonstrates lichenified plaques in a flexural distribution, commonly antecubital and popliteal fossa. So this is very common, and the commonest mistake we do is that we take such rubrics: itching at the flexural part, antecubital and popliteal fossa, as I mentioned before. So out of, I would say, 10 8 children will have atopic dermatitis on these surfaces only. So there is no point immediately giving graphitis just because in graphitis it is written that the itching is on the flexural folds. Of course, there are a number of many other medicines as well where it is mentioned. So the point is, such symptoms of a disease are of least importance while taking a case, while repertorizing the case. Similarly, in adults, you will get the distribution to that in adult eczema or maybe dermatitis. They have a similar distribution to that in childhood atopic dermatitis, but is increasingly localized and lichenified with thickened skin, increased skin markings, and exfoliated and fibrotic papules. So in adults, most of the commonest site where you get the lesions of atopic dermatitis are upper arms, back, wrists, hands, fingers, feet, and toes. So just to revise, in infantile type, face scalp; in childhood type, flexural folds; in adult, upper arms, back, wrist, hands, etc. I'm going quite fast because I want to focus more on the homeopathy part. So quickly we'll revise the causes of atopic dermatitis. Most experts believe that atopic dermatitis has a genetic basis. This is of course supported by clinical studies as well as twin studies and chromosomal studies. So they suggest that there is a gene on chromosome 11 that is responsible for such disorder. And of course, clinical studies have also shown a higher risk of atopy in children with maternal atopy than in children with paternal. So in this slide, you should ask for a family history as well. Of course, like any other autoimmune or any other allergic manifestation, even atopic dermatitis is having environmental as well as genetic factors. So there is an array of gene and gene environment or immunological interactions. Of course, it is related with stress. Stress is one of the most commonest factor. And my dear friends, don't consider that children don't take any such stress. We'll discuss some other day about the stresses in children. So these are the other factors like immune dysfunction, nervous system imbalances, a higher level of substance P, impaired skin barrier, family history, of course, environmental pollution, excessive hygiene. At times we get patients who are having kind of an obsession of washing hands and all. Even that can lead to such sort of lesions, which we term as atopic dermatitis at times. Of course, trigger factors are dry skin, irritants, emotional stress, allergens, heat and sweating, and infections, secondary infections. So like soap can aggravate, temperature can aggravate. So these all environmental causes can be the reason and can be the reason behind the aggravation of these problem, these rashes and itching. Dry skin, soaps, temperature, high and extremes of temperature, I would say. Some people are having allergy to fabrics. So this is also one of the positive factor, or you can say maintaining cause. Unless and until we remove these obstacles to cure. If a person is having some allergy to the synthetic thing, so it's better to avoid those synthetic fabrics and all for quite some time, till the time your body get healed internally as well as externally with the help of right homeopathy, right constitutional medicine. Of course, we should consider the psychological factors as well, because sleep disturbances because of itching can affect behavioral pattern, educational development in children. Teasing and bullying leading to low self-esteem, increased dependency and clinginess, impact on school or leisure time activities, time commitments for treatment applications and healthcare visits, disruptions to family function and relationship, and parental or stress and exhaustion. So now is the most important point, that is how we'll proceed with the case, or maybe what's the homeopathic perspective behind atopic dermatitis. So for that, we'll have to focus more on the problem, then only we'll get to the solution. So theoretically, we just briefly discussed what exactly is atopic dermatitis, what are the causes behind atopic dermatitis, what are the aggravating factors that can increase the itching or lesions of atopic dermatitis. But what exactly was the cause that was responsible for developing atopic dermatitis, say after 3 years, 4 years, 7 years, up to the age of 7 years or up to the age of 10 years, the patient was perfectly all right. Genes was same, environment was same, stress, if we consider, say, stress was same. So what happened all of a sudden that he started having rashes, that he started having itching, and that is increasing day by day, so gradual increase in the lesions? What was the factor behind? So we'll have to understand the cause behind the problem in order to seek the solution. So let's take a deeper view about how to treat such a nasty disease. So let's take a review of literature before proceeding. According to homeopathic guidelines, the patient is to be treated not his organs or parts or systems or tissues. So also in a case of atopic dermatitis, our objective of treatment is patient himself, not the skin lesions. So as is written in aphorism number 82 of Organon of Medicine, that no real cure can take place without a strict particular treatment. So individualization of a case of disease is must. So our aim is not merely to reduce the hypersensitivity of skin along with skin lesion, but to have improvement in both subjective and objective fear. Yeah.
सर
Yes, please.
सॉरी आपको 1 मिनट इंटरप्ट कर रही हूँ, वो थोड़ा सा ना या तो स्पीकर थोड़ा सा लाउड कर लीजिए या फिर थोड़ा पास से बोल लीजिए. देयर इज सम इशू विद द ऑडियो.
Okay. Is it okay now?
यस सर, अभी ओके.
Okay, so what I was saying was that we have to focus upon the constitution, of course, and of course we'll have to take our case as per the individualization, what we have been taught so far. An older, more chronic disease will yield somewhat later together with all traces of discomfort by the use of several doses of the same more highly potentized remedy, or after careful selection of one or another more similar homeopathic medicine, as is written in aphorism number 148. And further, Hahnemann mentioned in aphorism 171 the same thing: the role of antipsoric remedies, the well-selected homeopathic individual remedies. And yeah, this is a very important point. T.P. Pashuro, he writes that every experienced homeopath knows positively that unless he reaches the dynamic constitutional background of the patient, unless he had penetrated and understood the psychological personality and the vicissitudes of adaptation of life, which give the earliest symptoms of neurovegetative dystonia, determining the nature of his character and its particular pathology, he will never be able to know what he has to cure in the patient, whom he does not know because he is not understood him. So in order to treat any disease, we have to understand the patient, the core of the patient, the personality of the patient, the constitution of the patient. So, there is no as such shortcut. So, my dear friends, if you are expecting that I'll be sharing some medicinal part, that this particular medicine is very much effective in curing atopic dermatitis, this particular medicine is having an effect on lesions on flexural surfaces, and so on. So, my dear friends, you are at the wrong place. And I never practiced like this. So more than that, I would like to share that in today's presentation, I am not, speaking something extraordinary. Everything is quite common, quite ordinary. What you have been taught in the graduation, post-graduation lectures, there is no as such shortcut. You have to focus. You have to go into the depth of the patient's mind as well as the psyche and soul of the body. Psyche and mind of the personality and the constitution of a patient. So there is as such no such shortcut. Further, Dr. Ghatak, even he mentioned that man is not an automation like as an engine or a clock. Man is an organism, and any disorder in any part of him is not confined to that part alone. As a disorder or derangement in a clock or an engine. So thus a disorder in any particular part of the man, that is to say a disease, relates to the whole man, and it can be cured only if the whole man is cured. Similarly, even Dr. Wadia has beautifully mentioned that the skin is a mirror on which nature reflects first. Skin is a mirror on which nature reflects first. Certain disorders taking place inside the body. So, actually there was some disorder inside the body and the reflections are on the epidermal layer of the skin. So skin diseases can be considered as external manifestations of internal disorders. It is a timely hint for us to find out the cause and treat the original focus. Instead, what we see and find today is that no sooner any eruption appears on the skin, a serious attempt is made to suppress the same. The net result is this, that what nature wanted to throw out and thereby save the internal vital organs, what we do is we suppresses that thing. So there is no point giving external application, say for example, liniments, ointments, moisturizers, etc. So there is no point suppressing the itching. But at times, patients are, even you get irritated that what's going on, what's happening, in spite of selecting the quite a very good medicine, in spite of selecting the best so-called similimum, you're not getting the results. So we have to be a little bit patient. Not only we along with our patients should be ready to have some patience in them. Unless and until a patient is having some patience, you won't be able to treat that patient. So moving to miasmatic evaluation, there is ample evidence both in the literature of allopathy as well as homeopathy, which says that the skin disorders are nothing but expressions of disturbance in the internal dynamics, as I said earlier. The cause for this disturbance is invariably a miasm, if we say homeopathically, as it has been put forth by Hahnemann in chronic disease. Atopic dermatitis can be the expression of any of the three miasms and their combinations. It depends upon the different kinds of presentation dermatitis comes up with. The other mistake which we usually do is we start studying miasm from a different angle. We are always in a habit to define a miasm of a disease. For example, we are in a habit of saying eczema is having a psoric miasm. Any sort of ulcerations are having a syphilitic miasms. So, my dear friend, this is wrong. What do you think? Thuja is having only the psychotic miasm behind it. Won't you give any person having any psoric personality, Thuja? Just ponder over this thing that no medicine is having a single miasm. I have treated many syphilitic cases with sulfur. I have treated many psoric cases with Thuja. So my dear friends, don't make it a habit to name a miasm to a particular disease. So you will see even even in today's topic of atopic dermatitis, you will see there is a predominance of each miasm. You can see a patient having atopic dermatitis with a psoric miasm, with psychotic miasm, or with syphilitic miasm as well, or maybe a mixture of these things. So Dr. Banerjee explains the miasmatic expressions in a very comprehensive way, in a very easy to understand way. Try to read that particular book sometime. And he mentioned that psora has dermatitis and eruptions of all kinds in which dryness predominates, as you all know. Dermatitis and eruption are papular and associated with itching. Pruritus is always a manifestation of psora. Psoric eruptions are not recognizable by their color, but by the roughness of skin. Similarly, cracks of fine, dry scale, dryness of stuffy and brain-like scales, they all present psora. Moving ahead, having said that, it's a sensation of burning, dryness. The more you wash, the more it gets dry. Itching without pulse or discharge is characteristic of psora. The capacity to produce hypersensitivity is psora. In psora, itching often occurs late in evening. It's quite a common symptom. Specifically, if I say any fungal infection, say tinea cruris, 10 out of 10 people will say that they are having itching at the night time when they start undressing themselves. So it's a quite common thing. Don't take that symptom in during repertorization. Psoric skin complaints are aggravated by cold in winter. Emulsion are from natural discharges. These are quite common things. You all know such things. Similarly, psychotic miasm, papular and vesicular eruptions. Secretions are purulent, painful. They may be localized or in circumscribed spots. Fish scale eruptions are trimasmatic, as is mentioned. Thick skin, keloids, warts, cones. So all these things are psychotic, as is mentioned by Dr. Banerjee. And then of course syphilitic. If you get, for example, psoriatic arthritis, if the joints are involved, the flexures of the body are involved, and you term them as syphilitic miasms. Putridity and offensive discharges, we usually take them as a syphilitic indication. These kind of things are helpful in selecting the anti-miasmatic medicine as an intercurrent. So you should not prescribe or you should not define a constitutional medicine based upon the miasm of a disease. But if, for example, in a rash, in a lesion, after a rash, you get a sticky discharge, putrid discharge, acrid discharge, then of course it indicates toward a syphilitic miasm, and for that you will be able to get a clue that if in a later stages, if after giving a constitutional medicine, we have to give any sort of intercurrent remedy or an anti-miasmatic remedy, then it would be an anti-syphilitic medicine. So this particular thing is the main point that we need to understand, that why we define such symptoms as SORA, psychotic, and syphilitic. I hope you are with me and you are getting what I am saying. So deep cracks and fissures, again, they are syphilitic. Syphilitic strength is offensive. So these are quite the common thing. We have just 3:45. We have just 10 more minutes, and let me show a couple of cases. Yeah. In a research journal, my article was published, wherein my article was on a clinical study in between July to August 2019, wherein I saw 30 patients in 1 year, and that was a complete research article wherein we showed that how we collect the data, and we did a cohort study as well for those cases, and then it got published. So therein it was like that in this 1 year, out of 30 patients, 0 to 15 years of age, I saw 17 patients, and 45 and above, I saw just 1 patient. So this was just showing age incidence in years of those 30 patients. Of course, males were 19, females were 11. The commonest symptoms was itching, then eruptions, then dryness, and then lichenification. Associated complaints, most common associated complaints was cold and coryza, as we see in atopy. Then comes fever, sneezing, cough, constipation, vomiting, etc. Hypersensitivity was quite common. One or the other patient was having any sort of hypersensitivity with either fatty food, egg, wool, milk, fish, alcohol, etc., etc. Past history, yeah. This is a very, very important link between vaccination. So I am in a habit. I always ask my patient what happened after the vaccination, and I usually get a clue that number of patients get XYZ disease or disorder after the act of vaccination. So at that time, you get a clue whether we have to give them a Thuja, Cilicia, or something like that, or in between or not. Similarly, you will get, of course, you will get some sort of family history in most of the patients. Like in 17 patients, I found that there is a dust allergy in their parents as well, either of the parent, mother or a father, or maybe a brother, or maybe a grandfather. I always get maximum time dust allergy is quite a common family history. If we say about miasm, of course, SORA is more prominent, than psychosis, then tubercular, then syphilitic. So let's quickly, in the next 10 minutes, or let's say 15 minutes, I would cover a couple of cases that I cured during my clinical practice. This was a case of a 12-year-old boy, Iran Khan. I've changed the name, of course, of a patient for certain reasons. Patient data is like 12 years, male, of course, not marital, studying 7th class, student, religion is Muslim, and residing at my area only. So parents came with a male child complaining of recurrent skin eruptions on bilateral cheeks, started on right side and incubated fossa since 1 year of age. So this is important. It's from which was the first patch, how it moved. So it started on right side and in cubital fossa since 1 year of age. Parent says he cries with much itching. Erythematous papules, which become exudative, were present on cheeks and subsequently spreading to other parts of body. The lesion involves bilateral cubital and popliteal fossa as well. So this is quite common, isn't it? As I told you, like in childhood, these are the quite common areas of presentation in atopic dermatitis. Skin looking dry, scaly, reddish, unhealthy with much itching, aggravation by scratching and washing, suppressed with local medications. So parent says we took allopathic treatment for so many months with skin specialists, but recurrent eruptions came out again when exposed to sudden changes in atmosphere. They complained of gradual onset of maculopapular eruptions that became erythematous and crusty with time. The eruptions started on right side of cheek and then bilateral cubital and popliteal fossa were involved. They were dry and scaly in nature. He had pruritus with excoriation in folds, which made him cry with much scratching and redness of the affected area. Eruptions were worse by heat of sun, scratching, washing, warmth of bed, night, and better by warm weather. Eruptions were slowly progressing and became severe gradually. So this was the ODP of the disease of the patient. He has excoriation in folds, mostly itching worse by warmth of bed, by bathing, and at night. He can't sleep fully, always awake on slightest noise. Physical generals was like appetite was normal, non-vegetarian diet they used to take, quite thirsty, desire for sweets and curd were there. Bowel habits was quite hard stools once in 2 to 3 days. Perspiration, profuse, foul smelling. So this foul smelling perspiration is one of the factors that I considered. Thermal status was hot, vaccination was done, milestones developed on time. So there was no as such issue with the milestones, with the growth or development of a child. Past history, same type of eruptions were there when he was 2 years. He took allopathic treatment, was got relieved. His grandmother is having a history of bronchial asthma, hypothyroidism, diabetes mellitus. His mother was having asthmatic episode when exposed to dust, pollen, damp, wet weather since 3 years. So you see, family history is quite common in such cases, especially any sort of atopy. When I asked about the mental or lifespan of that Iram Khan, I found that he was full-term normal delivery. At birth, he was having 3 kg of weight and is lean thin since then. Skin affection with hereditary history. Mother complains that though he has good appetite, takes sweets, milk and food, but not having strength in body. His mother also said he has much heat in body and is hot when touched. He wants cool and open air. History of all milestones delayed. He has dullness, sadness and shrunken face. History of worms were there. He became restless and sleepless due to itching. He kicks off clothes and covering at night. Mischievous, talkative, destructive, breaks the toys, cruel, chews clothes, angry on triples, and beats everyone. So miasm here, fundamental of course was Sora, but the dominating miasm here is syphilitic one. Why so? Anger on trifles and beats everyone. Destructive, breaks the toys, cruel, chews clothes. So of course, these were not at all the physical symptoms, but you definitely get a clue that of course this child, the dominating miasm here is syphilitic one. So our medicine should be, a syphilitic one that covers the entire totality of the symptoms. So I took these symptoms as a totality: skin eruptions with itching, worse by scratching, washing, warmth, night and heat, ailments from suppressed skin eruptions, desires for sweets, constipation with hard stools. He was a hot patient, sleeps uncovered, sleep short, lean, thin, odd looking with dullness, and of course, mischievous, talkative, destructive, angry on trifles, and beats everyone. So, any guesses? Yeah, Ayushi has mentioned Madurinum. Okay. Any other guess? Now, can you just guess the remedy after the repatriation? Crephitis. Yeah, Krishna Arjuna, you are quite near to the medicine, but there is something different medicine, but you are very much near to that particular medicine. Sina, no. Dr. Neeraj, sulfur, no, of course not. Sulfur is having quite a destructive personality, which sulfur is not. Tuberculinum, no, Yashika. Sulfur, hyoscyamus. Okay. Petroleum, meserium. Dr. Utpal, may I know how you are guessing meserium, whereas others are guessing sulfur, calcarea carb, chamomilla, etc. Waiting for your answer, Dr. Utpal. Yeah, Dr. Utpal, would like to get your views. I mean, how you are selecting meserium? Why meserium? Even though meserium here is on number 5th. Yes, Dr. Utpal, you are right. The medicine I prescribed here was meserium 30 TDS for 15 days. Why meserium? Because when we get to see that the repertorization table, what we found is sulfur, murk, arsenic, calcarea. But the distinguishing feature was the perspiration, the offensiveness. Let me take it back. Perspiration, profuse, foul-smelling perspiration. Profuse perspiration is there in murk as well, but foul-smelling perspiration is there in meserium only. So physical history at times helps you in selecting a particular medicine. So I prescribed him meserium 30 TDS for 15 days. Now somebody might ask that why not a single dose? Why thrice a day, that too for 15 days? So my dear friends, in such cases, we usually see that unless and until you get to see I'm in a habit of repeating the medicine until I see some sort of improvement. So I prescribed him thrice a day for 15 days. After 15 days, eruptions on skin was better, but itching on arms was present. And later on, reddish, so this was the first time that eruption of skin was better, and then reddish papular eruptions were there. So I prescribed, since he was better, I prescribed him SL. Status was same. As an anti-miasmatic, I gave him sulfur 1 m. Then on 28th of December, itching disappeared, but dark black pigmentation on skin was there. This was left after eczema. Measurium 30, now OD for alternate days, so 15 days. Patient felt better. Then erythema decreased, better pigmentation, minimum. Pigmentation was minimum, no aggravation. Even in winter, that was an important point. From all these, I would say 19th of January to last prescription, he was been prescribed SL only, and I followed up after 2 years, for 2 years, and there is as such no such relapse even till now. Even he is still my patient, his family and his entire family is in touch with me, and touchwood he is far better. So this was the result. At times when he came to me, he was so itching. He was in a habit of applying the moisturizer. You can see the glass, you can see the glare. So this was due to moisturizer. And after our treatment, these were the patches. There was a marked improvement without any relapse. Yashika, it's 4. Can I take fastly within 5 minutes one more case, or Shikha is waiting?
As you wish, sir. We'll have a question answer session also for 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. So I think
no problem, sir. Continue. Please take the cases.
I'll go fast. Within 5 minutes, I'll finish it off. So,
sure. No hurry.
This was a case of a 3-year-old child. He was having all such complaints: recurrent redness, vesicular papular eruptions on face, scratching, aggravation, winter. ODP was since 4 to 5 days of age. Patient started having erythematous eruptions on both cheeks, and then it was relieved by applying external ointment. Nothing was important. Asthma was associated. Bronchi was there. Patient was chilly. Constipation was there. You can just easily guess this remedy. Perspiration was profuse overhead, especially at night. Chilly patient, constipation, talks during sleep of daily events, sleeps on abdomen, fair, flabby, sluggish. I hope you'll get the medicine with this only. Delayed talking was there. So my dear friends, delayed talking, fair and flabby child, chilly patient, profuse overhead perspiration, especially at night, constipation. Yeah, calcarea. Everyone leads to one remedy. So you can see everybody is up to calcarea only. Why? Why? Because you all know calcarea. So my dear friend, if you take a case in the right direction, if that case taking is perfect, each and every doctor will prescribe this guy calcarea. So what we have to focus on is the case taking. So I prescribed him calcarea carb. These were all the other things, past history and all, family history. There was a mental of course, mischievous, jolly nature, understanding nature, fearful, also point towards calcarea. Fear when alone, mild, weeps easily, quite sensitive as calcarea is. This was the totality of symptoms that I took, and after repertorization, it comes to calcarea only. I prescribed him calcarea carb 30 OD for 15 days. Once I prescribed him tuberculinum as an intercurrent, as an anti-miasmatic medicine, 1 single dose. This particular patient, I prescribed just 1 single dose, calcarea carb 31 dose every day for 15 days till he get relieved. So this was the result. At time when he came to me, he was having the extensive rashes all over his face. You can very well, imagine that how this particular boy, this sweet boy was, living. He was his parents was in a habit of applying moisturizer, ointments on a daily basis. So you can see how our homeopathic medicines work like magic. Of course, these two cases of atopic dermatitis elaborated in the presentation opted for homeopathic treatment as second choice after relapse and remissions. So these cases suggest that homeopathic treatment could be regarded as an effective choice for patients with AD. It is important for all of us to work more meticulously on modern scientific parameters, creating enough documentary proofs as per the need of the hour, without jeopardizing the tenets of homeopathy. So our studies have no gaps with such analysis was repeated. So thank you. Thanks a lot. Over to Yashika.
Thank you so much, sir. There is a question on YouTube from Dr. Sandhya. Chronic cases of skin diseases. How can we prescribe the dose? Yeah, how to decide the dose of the case?
See, actually, it depends upon the case to case. When you are focusing on the totality of the patient, and when the totality is of both the physical as well as mental symptoms, then the potency can be different. And when you are prescribing only on the mentals, then what I usually do is, for example, if all the physical symptoms, all the physical general symptoms are quite common to the disease, and I get a typical personality based upon the mind symptoms alone, I usually give high dose when I prescribe on the mentals only. But when I combine particular patient is having so many rashes, so I can't take a chance with a single dose. So I usually in a habit, usually in a habit of prescribing say twice or thrice a day, maybe up to 15 days, as we see in the last patient. And till that time, when the patient is somewhat better, somewhat, if the patient's parent says that now he's quite better, now he's having little bit of rashes, now the rashes are bearable, till that time, I keep on repeating the medicine. Next.
Thank you so much, sir. There was a question for the potency. What was the potency used in the second case?
Calcarea ka patti. Calcarea ka patti.
Yes, sir. There's a question: how frequently intercurrent should be given in chronic cases of AD?
Intercurrent should not be given to very much frequently. Intercurrent means intercurrent. That means we'll have to prescribe the intercurrent remedies only when your indicated remedies stop acting. When you see that Calcarea carb is not functioning anymore, and you are pretty sure that Calcarea carb is the one and the only similimum, it's the best indicated medicine as per your understanding, then you have to prescribe the intercurrent remedy to enhance the action of Calcarea carb. After the action of intercurrent remedy subsides, then you have to prescribe this Calcarea carb for example again, and then it will work like magic.
Sir, there was a question for the first case from Dr. Ayushi, why Mesaream was prescribed again, and Dr. Shreya wants to know why didn't you increase the potency to 200?
Yeah, see, first of all, she asked about why Mesaream. Number one, when we saw the repertorization sheet, there was, and when we recollect the symptoms, there was an offensive discharge, there was a hard stools, miasma was syphilitic, there was an anger on trifles, and the direction was right to left. If we go to the last slide of repertorization, so all these things lead to Mesaream only. So that's why I prescribed Mesaream. And what was the next question, Yashika?
Sir, the potency.
Potency. Why not 200?
Yes, sir. Why didn't you increase to 200?
When 30 was working, what's the point of increasing the 200 potency? We prescribed Mesigam 30 for 15 days, and after the first follow-up for 15 days, the patient was quite better. But at that time, when we found that on 4th of December, say after 3 months of Calcarea cough, when the action subsides, I gave intercurrent remedy. After that, intercurrent Nazirium helped. So why to raise the potency when it's working?
Thank you so much, sir. From Dr. Gauri Nandana, there is a question: is allergy intolerance of mind like psychic causes of dermatitis?
Yes, it can be. You can't ignore this. You are pretty right. You are quite right that allergy can be is allergy intolerance of mind. Yes, it can be an intolerance because as is mentioned in my very first few slides that only you can't define any particular disease with the superficial layer. There is something deep, but the topic of my presentation was this only.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a question on YouTube: when to prescribe anti-miasmatic remedy during the course of treatment when we are giving the constitutional treatment to the patient?
When the action of your constitution remedy subsides, when you find that now that particular constitution remedy is not working anymore, then you have to give any sort of either intercurrent remedy or anti-miasmatic remedy to enhance the action of your first, first prescription, first medicine. I think it's quite late now. I think Sheetal must be waiting.
Yes, sir. So I just want to request you to please type in your email ID in the chat box so that people can mail you the queries if they have any queries.
Yeah, sure. Bigani@gmail.com. Anyone can write anything about this, and I'll try to solve all these things.
Thank you so much, sir. So I want, on behalf of my whole team of Homeopathy 360, I want to thank you, sir, for your contribution as well as wonderful explanation on atopic dermatitis and contributing to this webinar series on behalf of Homeopathy 360 as well as Asha Homeopathic Academy and the Homeopathic Key. So thank you so much, sir, for sparing out your valuable time for this series. Thank you so much.